C'est un peu trop haut, ça. Hello, hello. Okay. Non, comme ça. Ah, mais parce qu'elle est un peu haute. Ah, voilà. Ah! Sorry. Here we go. Okay. Ah, of course. You can change the size. Okay. Right. Okay. Hello. Lovely people, English readers and English listeners. So I am live, yes, on Instagram, and I am so pleased today because I am live as well. Hi, Mariana. Hey, thank you so much for following me and following what I'm doing. I hope you're going to enjoy this session of Frankenstein. So we're going to read the next chapters because, hey, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. So as I was saying, I'm so happy today because I'm live, and I think that you saw my YouTube channel, and yesterday I was so annoyed and so sad because on my live on my YouTube video the sound didn't work, so there is just the image and no sound. So this is horrible. So for my first live of Frankenstein, the video has no sound, but the sound, one of the video is good and the other one is not. But today I have, hi, fake Jamie Oliver, still there. So today I'm so happy because I have the nice camera on and also the sound, which is good on YouTube. So it's gonna be a nice video this time. Yeah, so I guess we can start. All right, so tech is always difficult, but now I managed to get it. So I'm going to do a quick recap on chapter 1 to 3. This is those are the ones that we read, that I read yesterday. And just to say that, okay, I just want to say that, so just to recap, this is an adapted version of the original book. Fernanda from Book and Culture, she did a workshop of 2 days where she goes very much into depth of the book, of the original version. So if you want to check it out, it's on our website, Books and Culture. I just wanted to say thank you to her because, yeah, she does great stuff, and I love her workshops. So now I would like to first do a quick certain Robert Walton, who is on a ship in the North Pole, and he has this big ambition to make discoveries and travel and see new territories that hasn't been discovered by human. So he has this grand vision and ambition, and he is writing to his sister. So that was in chapter 1, Margaret, and he is telling her about his voyage, his journey on this ship, and he finds himself a little bit lonely, and because he knows that the sailors on the ship can't be his friends really, and so he really would like to have someone to have with him and have a friend. So that's about it. So we read just him writing the letters to his sister. So that was chapter 1, and then we learn that in these letters that they found on kids use usually to go down in the mountain to go down a mountain when it's the winter, when it's snowy. Hi, Melissa. So the kids so they find a sledge, and on this sledge there is a man, and this man, his story to Robert Walton is telling about his ambition of discoveries, and that he's ready to travel and work day and night to and then Victor Frankenstein, he's telling him, well, be careful, because I was the same. I had big ambition. I was to do a lot, and this is what happened to me. So he is warning him by telling him, when Victor Frankenstein starts to tell his story to Robert Walton. And it starts with when he was 15 years old, and that he discovered a thunderstorm happened when he was hit the tree, and this is where his dad tells him, oh, you know, this is because it happened because of electricity. So he starts studying science at Ingolstadt University. So that's chapter 3. And so at Ingolstadt, he starts to work with, he admires working on his own creation. So this is where we see how driven he was to create life from dead bodies, and how electricity. So we learn about his dedication to his work. He doesn't go home. He doesn't go back home. He used to live in Geneva, and he goes to Ingolstadt, which I don't know how far it is, but he doesn't go back home to see his family for 2 years. He keeps on working day and night to work on his invention and his creature. So that's about him. And on the side, we also learned that his mother died when he was young, and he has a sister, which is and we learn also that he has a brother called William, if my memory is right. William. Yeah. Yes. A brother, William, and a friend, a very good friend of him, Henry. We learned that so those people are very important later in the story. So that's why I'm talking about these people more specifically. And there is also Justine, young the family as well. All right. And that's about it. So now we're going to start chapter 4. Oops, chapter 4, which is Victor's creation. Okay. So I'm talking a little bit here because I'm on YouTube as well, live, if you are interested. Okay. It was on a dark, wet night in November that I finished the work that had taken me almost 2 years. I was extremely nervous as I began to give life to that first light. It Mary, she started the book. So obviously here it has been simplified, but it is just to mention that it's very important fact as well. Yellow, watery eye opened for the first time. It breathed hard. Arms and legs suddenly jumped a little on the table where it laid. Okay, that's a bit funny. How can I describe what I felt in that terrible moment? From his straight white teeth to his handsome as possible. Handsome. Handsome. I don't know if you're familiar. Handsome means beautiful, but mainly for people. We're not going to say, oh, this is a handsome table. No, we're going to say it's a handsome man, handsome person. Okay, so handsome, beautiful for people when we want to describe people. Handsome, how stupid! His yellow skin and his strange face were ugly and frightened me. I ran out of the laboratory and into my bedroom, where I walked up and down for a long time because I was unable to sleep. After several hours, I lay on the bed and tried to sleep, but then I had a nightmare. Nightmare is when you have bad dreams. At first, I thought the adopted sister. Okay. And she looked beautiful and happy. Then I moved towards her to hold her. I did not see Elizabeth, but my dead mother in my arms. What a terrible dream! I woke from my sleep with a shock of it. Okay, so there is a very nice picture here. I put it here. So we can see Victor Frankenstein at what we just see a part of it. Okay. Okay. Oh, and here we can see the creature alive and walking. Here as well. Yeah. I then sat up and saw by the light of the moon standing by the bed and was looking straight at me. His mouth opened and some sounds came out. And next I saw a horrible smile in his face. Hi, Felipe. Hi, Asen. Hello. He was standing by the bed and came out. And next I saw a horrible smile on his face. Sorry, I read again. I was frightened. Then, as he slowly reached out on one arm towards me, I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs. After morning, I walked the streets of Ingolstadt because I was too afraid to return to the apartment. It was raining, but I did not care. I walked for miles. While I was walking, I passed the inn In INN is hostel, like a hostel. It's an old world word, sorry, an old word where many trod down and stopped in the road in front of me, and out climbed my good friend Henry Clerval. I was very happy to study at the university. As I asked him about my father, brother, and Elizabeth. They are all well, he told me, but they are not very happy that you never write or visit them. He then stopped and looked straight at me. My dear Frankenstein, you look terribly ill. You're very thin and your face is white. Although I was very, very nervous, I invited Clerval to come to my apartment. When we arrived there, I asked him to wait there and looked around the place. The creature had gone. Oh, how wonderful! I ran downstairs and asked Clerval to come up with me. We had breakfast together and talked and talked. It was very good to have Clerval with me, but I decided I could tell him nothing about what I had done. Apartment behind Clerval. Of course, the creature was not really there, but I was nervous and scared, and I was imagining things. I scream is when you don't feel well and you fall down. And I fainted onto the floor. I felt very ill. I was so upset and shocked to see things that weren't really there. For several months, I lay in my bed while my dear until the spring that I felt better, and he gave me a letter that how the creation of the result of his creation. And now he's having hallucinations, or this is why he said he fainted, or you see, my dear Victor, so that's Elizabeth, feel better now, and he hopes that you will soon be able to write to me. Your father is well, but he misses you, and William is growing taller every day, but he is still a very sweet boy. There is a lot. Please write to us, my dear Victor. Yours, Elizabeth Lavenda. I wrote a reply to Elizabeth that week, and I had no interest at all in science. Henry knew that I had experienced something terrible, but he was careful not to ask me any questions. I was pleased because I did not want to talk about the awful thing I had done. I spent 2 weeks walking in the beautiful mountains, and at last I felt happy and free again. So that's the end of chapter 4, sorry. So today, bad news. When Clerval and I returned from our walking holiday, there was a letter from my father waiting for me. My dear Victor, I know that you will soon be coming home to us, and that it should be a wonderful, happy time. But I regret that I have some awful news. There is no easy way to say it, but dear, sweet brother William has been murdered. Last Thursday, it was a beautiful evening, and Elizabeth, William, and I went for a long walk. On the walk, William was running and hiding in the trees, but then he didn't return. We looked everywhere for him, found my dear boy dead in the grass. The black marks of the murderer's fingers were around his neck. When Elizabeth saw this, she fell down ill. I allowed him to wear the expensive necklace with a picture of his mother on it, and it has gone. The murderer has taken it. So here Elizabeth is of this. We do not know who the killer is, and I do not want to be full of hate for that person. Please come home to us so that we can be together. Your loving, sad father. Alphonse Frankenstein. Okay. So here, this is a letter from his father wanting him to come back because something very bad happened. So let's see how Victor Frankenstein is going to react. Is he going to go there? Well, I hope so. The very next day, I started the long journey back to my home city of Geneva, where I had not been. I was full of sadness during the journey, but there was also some happiness because I was going home. It was dark by the time I got down from the carriage and started to walk the last few miles to our house. As I walked, the weather changed and a loud thunderstorm came. I watched the lightning coming down from the dark sky to the hill for my arrival and right for the terrible thoughts that were in my mind about William's death. So again, we see here another death. So if you remember about the first chapter, so Victor Frankenstein's mother died. William's death is very much present in Mary Shelley's novel, because as I talked about a little bit of about the author yesterday, Mary Shelley lost her. 3 died when they were babies. So, of death is very present in her novel. The very next day, I started the long journey. I was full of sadness during the journey, but there was also some happiness because I was going home. It was dark by the time I got down from the carriage and started to walk the last few miles. The weather seemed right for my arrival and right for the terrible person came out of the darkness. A sudden flash. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mariana. Okay, great. I like that you like it. And then, moments later, the shape of a huge person came out of the darkness. A sudden flash. It was the face of the monster. But why was he here? Could he be the murderer of my brother? I felt sure that he was. Then, as quickly as he had appeared, he was gone again. With the next flash of light, I could see that he was quite far away, and he was beginning to climb up the nearest mountain. I was terribly shocked. The rain, I was full of regret, and all I could think, the dangerous monster had gone out into the world and killed someone. When it got light, I went on walking. And yet sad I was to see my father. After talking for a few moments, he told me the latest news. The murderer has now been discovered. Ooh, okay. What's that? I didn't understand because sadness in my father's face as he spoke. It's Justine. Justine, I cried. How can that be true? I'm afraid it is. No, I replied. You're wrong. It can't be Justine. It can't be Justine. She's guilty. It must be her. She was out all night when it happened. And then we found the necklace that William had around his neck in her pocket. Justin was in real danger. But what could I do? I knew no one would believe the story of how I created the monster. They would surely think I was mad. So I said nothing. I was hanged. Hanged. That kind, beautiful young woman was dead. I was very upset. Again, another death. And upset because of the fact that they will believe he's crazy. How could you have created this monster? So we see the guilt and the remorse that he has, and the duality that he is facing here. We were all terribly sad. In the weeks that followed, I could not sleep. 2 good, sweet young people had died, and it was all because of me and what I had done. So it's very interesting how he's blaming himself, but still doesn't say anything. And yeah. And what I had done, I regretted everything, terrified, because I knew that the monster might still be near us. When August came and 2 months had passed since Justine's death, I decided to go out walking and freer. I saw Mont Blanc. It's the highest mountain in Europe, Mont Blanc. I'm sure you've heard of it. In front of me. Eyes and green valleys gave me some hope. Up in the snowy mountains, when it started to rain, the sky was dark, but I continued on my way and reached the top of Mont Anvers at around noon. Mont Anvers. I sat on a rock and looked down over a large flat area of ice across the area of ice. It was a little foggy now, so I moved slowly and carefully as I came down the side of the mountain. Then, as the fog began to lift, I suddenly saw something quickly towards me. I saw that it was a man, and it was jumping easily over the rocks and big holes in the ice. I had a horrible shock when I realized that, but I also felt very angry. This monster had killed my dear William and Justine. I decided that I would fight him and waited for him to get after what you have done. I know that I'm ugly and different, and most people hate me, he replied. This is the first time that we hear as well, and this is the creature is really talking. That's the real fact from the original story. But what we see in films adaptations or in TV series is often that the creature but she's not actually talking. So that's something that I've learned as well when I read the book for the first time. Hi, Carol. Hello. So that's an interesting fact as well. So I know that I am ugly and different, and most people hate me, he replied. But you are the person who made me, and you talk about killing me? You, my creator, should give me what I need. If you do, then I will go away and live in peace. And live in peace, yeah. But if you refuse, then I will not disappear. I will continue to kill people. So we realize here that he is the one who killed William. We have the confirmation here. You You monster! Yes, I created you so I can kill you too. I cried and I ran at him, but he easily jumped away from me. You made me bigger and stronger than you, but I don't want to fight you, he told me. Although you seem to hate me, being alone and being hated has made me unhappy and dangerous. So here we can understand a little bit about the psychology or the mind of the creature. Impure, but being. So we see that from the start, the creature wasn't a bad person or wasn't a monster. It became a monster because he was hated. And the first person who hated him, as soon as he saw what he created, and this is where the creature's loneliness comes from. Go away or fight me, I shouted. Now he spoke quietly. I am bad because I've killed, but you now say you want to kill me? What's the difference? Please, just listen to my story. That's all I ask. Then, if you still want to kill me, do it. I shall not stop you. As he said this, he started to walk across the ice, and I followed him. I did not answer him, but as we walked, I thought about what he had. I should think about his happiness before being quick to attack him. So I decided to do as he had asked. It was with great sadness that I followed him inside the cave and then sat down next to the fire's story. Okay, which is now the story of the monster. So we can see that it's a story within a story within a story. So this is the whole narrative, narrative frame. Sorry, of this of Mary Shelley's work and how she articulates her story. So this is century 19th and beginning of 19th century. So this is one of the reasons why Frankenstein is a classic as well, because you have that that narrative frame of work, which is a narrative, which is a story within a story. Okay, so now let's listen to the monster story. The first month of my life. That's the title of chapter 6, in which the monster tells his story. It is very difficult, began. Everything was new and frightening to me here, and I did not know what to do. I started to move, and I discovered that I could walk. I went outside, but before I left your apartment, I saw some clothes. I was cold and knew that I wanted at Ingolstadt. I felt very hungry and thirsty, so I found and ate some very small fruits and drank from the river. After that, I fell down on the ground and went to sleep. And I saw a round white thing in the sky, and the beautiful light that came from it gave me hope. I lived very simply in the forest, learning about myself and my body. I heard the wonderful song of birds, and I survived. Hello, Nana. And I plants. I saw how another great circle in the sky rose up each day and gave a very bright yellow light, and then slowly came down again and seemed okay. So here up we see the cave, here the cave, and the monster here telling his story to Victor Frankenstein. here sitting on a rock, and the fire here burning. Very dark scene. Yeah. But this is where we see that the creature is very it's very touching to see. Sad to see him like that. So it's really not the monster that we imagine as Frankenstein. Really, it's very far from what we know about Frankenstein. About the monster that we confuse often being the Frankenstein. So I continue. I warmed myself by it and then watched it for a long time, but went back with a cry. I studied the hot thing carefully, as much wood as I could. That was how I learned about fire and how it worked. But I was not experienced enough to keep it alive for longer than a day or two. I had also found an old coat near the fire. I used this to keep me dry when there was water coming down from the sky. It's rain, water coming down from the sky. Many days passed, and I found it difficult to keep warm and find more food. White areas on the ground. I started walking again, and several days later, the snow had covered the ground everywhere I looked. Then, one morning, I found something square with it then, but it was a small hut. I gently pushed the door. A hut is a little house in the forest, let's say. Yeah. I gently next to a fire, over which he was cooking his breakfast. When he turned and saw me, he screamed loudly and then jumped up and ran past me out of the hut. There was no snow inside. There was bread, cheese, and milk, and I loved the taste and feel of these things in my mouth. With my stomach now full, I lay down next to the fire and slept. When I woke up, I left the hut and kept walking across the fields. Some hours later, I arrived at a small village. I was excited to see the vegetables growing in the gardens, and outside some of the cottage windows, I also saw milk and cheese. I opened the door of one cottage and walked inside, but I had only just put my foot inside when the children there screamed in horror, and one of the women fainted and fell on the floor. Fainted, if you remember, fainted. Everyone in the village was outside shouting and running after me, and some of them threw stones at me. I ran away from them and out into the country again. Later that day, I found outside the hut, and it had no door. I picked up some pieces of wood from around the garden and used them to cover the place where a door would be. And I used plants to make the inside of it more comfortable. Although the little hut it was built against the cottage, and the stones felt warm and when I touched them and keep myself warm. I did not want to frighten the people in the cottage, so I stayed inside the hut at first. There was a small hole that I could look through, and I watched. They wore simple clothes and looked kind. Inside my hut, some of them, and then through a small hole, I could see into the cottage. It was very simple inside, and I could see an old man. He seemed very sad and was sitting. It was then I heard something beautiful, which was similar to the sound I heard the birds making in the forest. I saw the three people looking at each other and smiling, and I felt something I had not felt before. There was a strange mixture of happiness and pain inside me. It was a strong feeling, and I had to look away from them. I lived this way for a long time, watching. I really wanted to share in their music and to hear everything they said to each other. But I was too scared. Everything they said, I was too scared to show myself because as he's scared that to meet these people again. Instead, I only came out of my hut in quiet moments when I took pieces of wood. Once I stole a small cup so I could drink more easily from a little river nearby. The young man and woman worked very hard, but they did not have much food to eat. I came to understand that they were very poor and they had a more difficult life than the people in the village. I also slowly realized that the old man was blind and could see nothing at all. Chapter 6, and I'm going to play again for part 2. Okay, back again. This is live. This is part 2 of day 2 of the Frankenstein live read along. So I just stopped at the end of chapter 6, and now I'm going to finish by reading chapter 7. Learning new things. So here, Frankenstein, the monster, he is telling his story, and we learn about this family who is living in a hut, and we learn about this. And this old man, and they seem poor. We learn that this old man is blind. I like these people very much. And there is a picture here. So here we can see, I guess, the young man and the young woman who are working hard, as you can see, collecting food. And we see here the face of the creature looking through a hole here from his hut. Hut, H-U-T, is the word for, hi Mariana, is the word for like house in the tree. Yeah, so is looking at. So I decided to try to help them. I stopped stealing food from the cottage, and instead I found plants and fruits from the forest. I saw that the young man always spent a lot of his time working hard. I used to go into the forest and collect as much wood as I could for him. I remember the first time I did this. The pieces of wood, he looked surprised and very happy. And when I saw the young man, always saw the young woman, sorry. Yeah, so it was the young. When she saw the pieces of wood, she looked surprised and very happy, and she ran inside. So we can see here the nice gesture of the creature. He is helping this poor family. Hearing this, I also saw that the young man did not go into the forest that day to work, but stayed near his family and spent a little time relaxing. I was hungry to know more about these people and their world, about the cottage and garden. I started to understand some of the words that they used a lot. For example, fire, milk, bread, and wood. So this is how to speak the language. So I think in the original book they speak French. So this is how he learned how to speak French. After a few more days, yes, it's funny to learn. After a few more days, I knew their names. The young woman was Agatha, or sister, and the young man's name was Felix, or the meaning behind, not really, but he learned that brother and Felix were the same person. And also sometimes son. The old man was always called. How we learn as a reader that this family, so this is actually a father and his two children who are poor, and the daughter is called, and so quietly repeated them again and again to myself in the hut. So it's interesting to see, sorry, I stop again, but it's so interesting, especially when we learn a new language, that repeating the same words and or what see again and again the same words, this is how we retain, this is how the memory remembers the words. So, and this is how good to read, to improve your writing, or to improve your vocabulary, to learn more vocabulary even in your own language. So this is the same process as well when we learn a language, a foreign language. In the evenings, they often sat near the fire and talked or played music. Felix sometimes took out some. I noticed how he gently touched it and looked after it very carefully. He used to open it and then talked on his own for a long time, while the other two listened. I later realized that Felix was reading aloud from a book, and that the words were written on the page in front of him. So this was how I spent the whole winter, watching had grown to love. Then one day, I found a small lake in the woods, and I saw myself in the calm, flat water. I was shocked and looked and jumped back. I was ugly and frightening, and I did not look like any of the people I had seen. Later that night, I just hoped to one day be like them and speak like them, so they will not be frightened of me. So here, this is a very sensitive and important. Richard didn't know how he looked, and how to see how he reacts from this. Oh, all right. So I'm ugly. I'm scaring people, but I'm gonna work hard, and I'm going to make sure I speak eloquently. I speak well their language, so that they will not be afraid of me. So yeah, we really see that he's trying to make people love him, or he's gonna try everything for people to love him. I mention again, so this is very interesting to see that although so the difference between how popular culture and films speaks a word, and actually in the real story, in the book, it's not that at all. This creature is actually very intelligent, very smart, and he speaks well, like a normal person. Yes, he looks ugly, but he speaks like a normal person, and he can learn, and he is intelligent. He can discernment. Yeah, discern. He can understand, live. So it's very interesting to see how smart that creature is. Let me know if you have any thoughts on that. Soon, the weather started to change and become warmer, and the evenings became lighter. There were different plants. I learned a lot, and every night I repeated again and again all the words and phrases I had noted that day. Sometimes Felix read from stories, and other times I learned about history, geography, money, big houses and cities, kings, friends, families, and the birth and growth of children, and many others. Now, of course, I realized that I had no money and I had no house, and there were lots of difficult questions in my head. Had I ever been a young child, I felt sadder than ever before. So, just a quick note here is that it's where the part where the creature is learning the human language. I agree with you, Mariana, because he's learning by himself just by watching these people, and from the readings as well, from Felix readings. So this is interesting how, of course, school is, you see how powerful books and reading are, how you can educate yourself with books. And actually, this is my reading journey as well. Reading, I educate a lot myself by fiction, but fiction is more to escape and to discover another, help you a lot, and educate yourself. Yeah, from people's stories, biographies. Yeah, it's great. I love it. And so what I wanted to say here is that that he is learning to become an adult, and then we can see here that he is reflecting on his own life, and where do I come from? And this is often the question that people who have been adopted will always try to search where they come from. They know that they parents, and at some point they always I've watched, there is always a moment, even if they know, yeah, that their parents are not their biological parents, and they have a picture of their biological parents, but they always want to still do. I don't know if you know Olivier Rousteing. He's a famous is the designer of this luxury brand called Balmain. It's a fashion brand, and he's been adopted, and there is a documentary that they made on Netflix in France. Anyway, that was just a little parenthesis. So now back to the story. Soon after this, I was exploring deep in the forest. Inside were 3 big books and some clothes. Excited and happy, I brought the bag back to my hut. I spent the next days and weeks studying the books and teaching myself to read. It was the same when we learn reading in English. We don't always understand all the words, but we get the idea of the story. Yeah. We get the idea, and this is the same process when you're a child, when you learn, when you start reading. And we often reading, and there are the words that we don't understand. Yeah. And in our own language, we learn things as well. We read, but there's a lot of words that sometimes we don't understand. But it's fine. It doesn't matter. The important is to keep reading and to enrich our vocabulary. This is the process. We have to go through this to be able to learn, to be able to understand. Next time we will understand the words. Yeah, sure. It was at that time, at the little cottage, I had discovered some papers in the pocket of the clothes that I had taken from your laboratory. But now I remembered those papers and I looked at them again. Now I remember those papers and I looked at them again and studied them very carefully. All the things you had done to make me in them, you describe all the things you had done to make me. The whole story of my awful creation was there on the pages for me to read. Yeah. And you said that I was your biggest mistake. I felt sick when I read it all. After this, I became very depressed. My only hope, I believed, was to perhaps they will understand me and be my friends. I decided that I would spend the next few months getting ready to meet them. I would practice my reading and my speaking, and I would learn everything I could to give myself and more each day. Some days I was excited and hopeful when I thought about my plan to meet the small family. Other days I felt miserable and believed that they would hate me and make me leave the cottage. Yet every day my feelings for them grew and shared things together. I wanted to feel what they felt. When the winter came, I decided that I was ready. I had made I had made a plan. I would wait until Felix and Agatha were away from the cottage to know me without being frightened or shocked by how I looked. So this is the end, chapter 7, and we will read chapter 8 to 11. Yes, tomorrow, chapter 8 to 11, to see if how the old blind man reacted to is a very intentional way from the creature to wait until Agatha and Felix are gone to talk to the father, so that he will not judge him by his looks, but let's take the time to listen to him. So people who are watching this video, this live on replay, let me know in the comments what you thought about this live and those chapters and the stories and all the things that I talked about as well. I'd love to hear what you thought about it. I loved it. I'm so happy. Oh my god, I'm so happy, Marina, that you loved it. I'm so glad that what I'm doing is people are listening, are interested. Thank you to you for listening the whole the whole live. You listened to the whole live. That's great. Thank you so much. It was very it was great to have someone to read to. Thank you again, and I hope to see you tomorrow for the next chapters. And yeah, if you have any questions as well, do please leave a message. Yes. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Thank you. Yay. Bye.